At this point in time, I want to thank Mrs. Ross for being in this meeting with us today. First time I had the opportunity to be in the meeting with you. I'm glad to be here with you as well. We have approximately 3 updates, and we have 1 discussion that needs to be made. We're going to do an update on the surveillance policies, update on Safe Task Force regarding the Safe Pitch, update on the Grand Rapids Police Department Community Engagement Unit, and then we're going to have a discussion facilitating of firearms, lock and firearm safety and awareness program. So if we can begin, let's begin with the update on the surveillance policies and revisions to the administration policies of 15-3.
Good afternoon. Phil Strom, Deputy City Attorney for the City of Grand Rapids. I have the duty of presenting on behalf of the Office of Oversight and Public Accountability today because Brandon Davis, who has done quite a lion's share of this work, is at the 27th Annual National Conference for Civilian Oversight with Law Enforcement. And so for the commissioners, you have received much of this information before. For the Public Safety Committee members, you had a briefing, I believe, in August on the anticipated changes to this surveillance policy. So I know Asante has distributed the materials, the PowerPoint that Mr. Davis and his office put together. I really wanted to elevate the NAACP and their collaboration throughout this process, and also the internal departments, including but not limited to the police department, the fire department, mobile GR, and some of the other departments that maybe you don't think of when you think about surveillance equipment, because we do have equipment within other departments that could fall under this policy now or in the future as technology develops. So for the purposes of today, I wanted to just give you a little bit of a history to remind you about our current surveillance policy, walk through some of the main changes, and then really be available for any questions that you might have if you've spent time with the documents or the presentations in the past. And anything that I can't answer, we'll be sure to coordinate with Mr. Davis and make sure you have all the information that you need, because as the Public Safety Committee, your role within this new surveillance policy is going to be more in terms of where this work is going to start and what this committee, because of the citizen involvement, will do to try to help our organization utilize surveillance policy and also protect the individual rights of citizens. So the current policy was adopted in 2015, and as you can imagine, technology has changed quite a bit. And in November of 2020, we started to have conversations about spot shotter was one piece of equipment that was being discussed. We've also continued to have conversations about utilization of drones or unmanned vehicles to help in different community safety efforts. And so that really started the conversation, and we've been working with NAACP, the law department, OPA, and all the other departments since November of 2020 to make what turns out to be pretty major changes to the existing policy. Some of the goals that were kind of discussed when this work was first put out as a concept was increasing transparency to the community through reporting, both regular reporting and annual reporting, increasing clarity around the governance of how surveillance equipment would be acquired, used, and deployed within our jurisdiction, and then also making sure that community had a voice and adequate opportunity to weigh in on the conversation as these important decisions would be made. So if you have the presentation, I would direct you to page 3 for a really good summary of the major changes that are being suggested within this policy change. And there are 11 changes, I believe. And I'll just go through those as they exist on this page, and then discuss kind of the overall goal here with this policy change, and then open it up for questions. So as we'll take a closer look at, the expanded purpose statement has been modified. We've added definitions to better explain the terms included in the policy. We're elevating resident voice in the acquisition process by adding a required public hearing. We're creating a standard of review and approval, adding explicit equity considerations to the operational protocols, creating a governance structure that includes complaints and audits of the use of surveillance equipment. We are establishing this Public Safety Committee as a surveillance oversight committee and elevating advisory committee members' positions on surveillance items. We'll be mandating surveillance use reports, increasing transparency by adding annual surveillance reports, establishing prohibited uses of surveillance equipment, and removing and replacing a key definition that was previously considered exigent circumstances and replacing that with a different definition that we're calling extenuating circumstances to avoid confusion with what is really a technical legal term of art in exigent circumstances. So as to not confuse that legal term of art, we've come up with a different definition, and we're calling it extenuating circumstances. So before we open it up for questions, I would just kind of highlight the overview, and it's, I guess, intentionally stated in our new purpose statement of this policy. The previous purpose statement from the 2015 policy was somewhat simple, and it was to establish a uniform policy to be followed by all city departments when acquiring surveillance equipment and services for use in city operations. And so we tried to encompass a lot of the goals and the actual outcomes that we discussed with NAACP and heard from community along the way in this new purpose statement. And now the new purpose statement will read that the purpose of the policy is to establish a uniform policy to be followed by city departments when acquiring surveillance equipment and services for use in city operations, including but not limited to ensuring the safety of persons and property, investigation of illegal behavior, and to ensure that the privacy interests of Grand Rapidians are considered in the decision to acquire, use, or deploy new surveillance equipment or surveillance services. So as we did that work, the operational considerations were important, but we didn't want to lose sight of the privacy interests of the citizens. And so we tried to balance those interests. And when you look at the technical changes throughout this policy, we're very proud of the work that we were able to do with our community partners and across the organization to get this to a place that we think we're ready to recommend implementation from the city manager. And so the next steps, we're going to have ongoing community outreach and engagement with OPA and other community partners. And then the city manager is hopefully going to implement the policy in early 2022. And we'll have ongoing audits and reviews through the annual reporting to make sure that if changes are needed or maybe we didn't anticipate an ancillary consequence, we can modify this again in the future. So I appreciate the opportunity to update the Public Safety Committee and would welcome any questions.
Colleagues? If not, other committee members? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next is the update on the Safe Task Force regarding Safe Pitch and the highlights from the winners of that event on the 17th. Can't get out, Mr. Kane?
You secured it too well. There it goes. Excuse me. Thank you, Public Safety Committee. My name is Asante. I am the liaison to the Safe Task Force. The task force recently had a pitch and highlight night. That is an opportunity for the public to come out and pitch their ideas on how to decrease violence in our community. We had it at Ottawa Hills High School on November 17th. We had 5 organizations with the opportunity to partner with the city, and we had 1 individual that also was awarded that opportunity to partner with the city. 5 of the organizations, they are going to receive $10,000 in funding, and then the individual $1,000. The first group was We Matter Now. We Matter Now is actually a collection of 3 different organizations: Young Money Finances, Better, Wiser, Stronger, and the Delta Project. Those 3 organizations provide opportunities for young men of color to have pathways to opportunity. They have all sorts of opportunities for young people to get educational and financial achievement growth. And they'll be doing a one-day conference to get young people involved, not only with their groups during the summer, but also open them up to other opportunities to keep young people engaged during the summer and involved in positive activities. The next group was Mused. They have a facility over on the west side on Leonard. They have previously been awarded funding. Their previous effort was to create a music-based program for young people a couple of summers ago. That went very well. They actually produced a whole album, the young people did. And their idea this year was to support not only that group, but also provide new students opportunities to get training in photography and videography. And so young people between the ages of 15 and 24 will be going to Muse to learn about photography and videography, and not only create new material, but also document and support the previous group. So this is an opportunity to help Muse build a creative ecosystem that promotes a sense of belonging for those who identify with the program. Next, we have the Grand Rapids Center for Community Transformation. They have a community basketball league. Young people who participate in that basketball league, in exchange for the opportunity to participate in that league, they also are seeking those participants to reduce their truancy, in-school suspensions, and also increase their engagement with mentors and to promote wellness. Our own neighborhood associations also pitched. I was actually, quite proud. I think I have Annette here, but I was very, frankly, proud that the neighborhood associations kind of banded together and they had this idea, and they're working together to participate in this program. So they want to do a collaboration. It's a collaboration of neighborhood associations that are going to create and execute a program called Safe Streets Equals Safe Neighborhoods. It's a public awareness campaign to focus on educating and training the community on gun safety, to help address the public health crisis of violence and trauma within the city. So again, you have neighborhood associations partnering together to make a change in our community. We also had Puertas Abritas. This is a 6-month program to support adolescents between the ages of 14 and 18 who are survivors of domestic violence. One thing that the SAFE Task Force tries to do with this funding is to help organizations get from here to here and to elevate what they're currently doing. And so this group, Puertas Abritas, which I believe in Spanish means open doors. Oh, no, I'm mistaken. Is any Spanish speakers here? No Spanish speakers? All right. I don't know if it's doors or windows, excuse me. So I'll just stick with the Spanish. Puertas Abritas. They currently do, they support adult, mostly women who are victims of domestic violence. And so this SAFE funding is helping them reach out to the children of those mothers between the ages of 14 and 18 years old. And they are going to provide licensed Michigan therapists and a physical educator, all that have been trained and understand cultural sensitivities. They're going to provide one-on-one therapy, group support, and physical education. And then lastly, the one organization, the one individual who was awarded the opportunity to partner with the city is Freedom Elevated Defense Solutions. What they do is they provide basic firearm safety and training to help people understand how to secure their firearms, how to handle their firearms and whatnot. They also have a virtual simulator, and they're going to bring that programming along with the attorney to answer questions to help make more responsible gun owners, so those are the winners of the pitch night. I am working with them right now to develop outcomes and deliverables for their different projects, and those projects will all start no later than the spring. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. I was there that evening, and I really appreciated all of the groups that came up and gave their presentations. However, my question is that the amount that was given out, these groups did not all receive the same amount, so can you break down what amounts they all received?
No, they all received $10,000. So there we had about 17 registered and maybe 15 showed up, and we had 5 winners, I'll say, that have the opportunity to partner at $10,000, and then the one individual is $1,000, so
All right.
$51,000 that evening.
Yeah, my mistake. I misheard you. But I thought they were, I guess that night, I heard something else that night, but then you made it very clear that each one of them got approximately $10,000 apiece.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, we had about 50 people come out that evening. It was nice. I think another thing that you see at these pitch nights is the opportunity for people to partner. People know they get to see what other people are doing, and so even that evening, when we did see some partnerships start to be created.
Colleagues.
I will just say that it was, I think, a very good endeavor, and I think out of it, I'll speak to this momentarily, but out of it, I think it was a couple things that can look to actually grow with some momentum based on, their ability to pitch the idea. They were successful, and I'd like to, again, in a few minutes, talk a little bit more about, two of the winners in particular that could help to grow. I guess position what they're doing all the more, but also look to enhance it. So,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Okay, at this point in time, we're going to update from the Grand Rapids Police Department for community engagement.
Just push the keyboard when you want to go forward or arrows. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Deputy Chief Kristen Rogers. Thank you for having us today. Greatly appreciate it. We just want to use this opportunity, in between other things, to just really educate and to promote our department and what we're doing within the department, and to really tell you all the ins and outs of all the different units and things that we have going on. So our community engagement unit, which is what we are going to talk about today, was actually created in October of 2017. The unit does a wide range of tasks. However, today we're going to be mainly talking about recruiting. And I brought Lieutenant O'Brien, who is the commander of that unit, and she's going to provide an update. And we'll take questions at the end. Appreciate it.
This one. Good afternoon.
Good
I'm
afternoon.
Lieutenant Maureen O'Brien. As she said, I have been running the community engagement unit since late 2017. Some of the things I'd like to share with you are just updates to what we've been doing throughout the last few years. We've certainly had to change our approach to recruiting candidates. It's more intentional, proactive approach, and we'll go into that a little bit later. We're really integrating the traditional aspects of recruitment, such as career fairs, as those really are starting to decline. So we're going at recruiting it more in line with almost what athletes are recruited with. We'll go into that a little bit to hopefully attract and enhance our diversity efforts here. Using our industry best standards for recruitment and actively seeking out and using feedback from our employees to attract diverse candidates as well. And then we'll talk about an increase in our social media campaigns and advertising. So something I'm pretty proud of is the creation of our recruiting website, joingrpd.com. If you haven't looked at it, please do. This was launched in October of 2020. This was launched by Officer Nia King and our intern at the time, Andrew Smith, and we've since hired him as a police recruit. COVID kind of hit, and this is something that we had been wanting to do, and we took advantage of that time. So some of the reasons behind why we want to do that, modernize our recruiting, not only our paraphernalia, but our recruiting efforts, videos, website, to be more engaging with the younger generation. So this particular website, over year to date, we've had 12,000 visitors. We can track who is on our website, like which state, which country. 9,200 of the visitors have been from Michigan. And we've had contact, responsive contact with over 500 people who have reached out to us via the website. This really is an easy to navigate website, not just for the candidate, but for our officers on the street when they see somebody who's maybe interested in Citizen Police Academy or for a sworn position, intern, or youth opportunity. They can pull out the cell phone and have that person log on right to join DRPD. It's very responsive and easy to navigate. It also supports our efforts to streamline recruiting processes, to allow someone to prepare for that hiring process. So there's videos that explain how to prepare for the physical agility test or how to prepare for the civil service exam. That is all readily available via their mobile device. So our individualized approach to recruiting, really an active engagement with potential candidates. So more frequent contacts, bringing a candidate into the department for a tour, setting up a ride-along, helping them through the process. We're just not getting 2,000 candidates like we used to get that would come and apply and take the civil service exam. So we're trying to do a more one-on-one approach to bring these candidates inside the police department. So we also have increased our recruiters. I think we started off, when I took over, there was about 17 designated recruiters. We're up over 60. It's a secondary assignment that they can assist with recruiting. And it's been really beneficial in our efforts. We, of course, have open houses every year. We've included those to be free. They're all free, and there's an opportunity for somebody to come out, take the physical agility test for free prior to paying a fee to take that test. We have officers on hand to give them advice on how to prepare. We have a women's summit that we started 2 years ago, and we have been doing that every other year. We started in 2020, Employee Diversity Roundtable. So as we seek feedback from the community, we sought community or employee feedback, and we had all our diverse employees come out to a diversity roundtable to look at how we're recruiting, what ideas they had, what are we missing, what should we be doing, what maybe shouldn't we be doing. And we've implemented some of those ideas brought forth by this roundtable. So I'll share with you just a couple. I know I'm trying to talk fast. Am I doing all right on Sunday? Okay. You told me to talk fast. So if I am talking fast, it's on purpose. So Officer Blake Walton, after a roundtable discussion, one of the ideas was to go into universities and target minority affairs offices, historically either African American or Hispanic fraternities and sororities, in ways to get out the message that we're hiring. So he took it upon himself and he created kind of like a contact list for 6 colleges, and that way our recruiters could get information out, start to build those relationships out at the universities. One of the ideas that was implemented. Also, there was a desire for us to seek engagement with younger kids. So they suggested we sponsor a baseball team. This is separate than on base, but the foundation jumped on board. We sponsored a team free of charge to participate in the baseball season this year. And we provided all the equipment for them as well. So just taking these ideas and utilizing them is what I'm trying to get across here. The youth talent pipeline has been very instrumental in our recruiting efforts and will continue to be. We created the Explorer program back in 2015, and we certainly have hired some youth from that program. The Youth Police Academy, we have officers at the JROTC out at Union Central and Ottawa High School. So those officers go out during the school year for each of those high schools. We have our Pathways to Policing program through the Boys and Girls Club, and then, of course, our intern position. So what we find is that we're hiring about 20 to 30% of our interns, but now even more than that, we're getting youth who have come through our youth programs, and then we're hiring them on as police recruits. So I think 30% of our interns have participated in Explorers or the Youth Police Academy. So I continue to see that rise as we continue on with these programs. Streamlining of the hiring process, we're definitely deliberate in looking at ways to streamline the process, not just for the candidates too, and for us, trying to make it more efficient and user-friendly. So some of those things that we've been looking at is we did create a year of eligibility for the civil service exam for certified candidates. I'd like to propose doing that also for our police recruit process. So essentially what that means is if somebody comes out and they test, you're on an eligibility, you don't have to test every process. So it takes away them having to, if they've already successfully passed the civil service exam, they don't have to redo it. So we have made that change. We increased the opportunities to take the civil service exam. We used to do that once during the process. Now we offer multiple opportunities for candidates. For the police officer position, they can take it once a month. And for the recruits, we offer more opportunities within like a 2-week period. We have updated our personal history statement and made that electronic. We've moved the chief's interview to the beginning of the process, which allows them the ability to offer someone a job quicker. They still will then have to successfully complete the COE, which is usually the background, things like that. But it makes us more competitive in a very competitive market. We also have been researching a background investigation software program that's going to be really beneficial not just to the candidate, but to the department as well in regards to staffing. This program is amazing. It's mobile, user-friendly. They can complete it on their mobile device. And it's very easy to access and upload documents. Additionally, as far as staffing, we would not need to take as many officers off the street to conduct those background investigations. So in regards to social media and paid outreach, we've really been trying to update all our material. The creation of the day in the life videos, if you've had an opportunity, we share those not only on our Joint GRPD website, but we've had the ability to work with Friends of GR Parks and sharing those at movies in the park during the summertime and at any recruiting event that we can. We started a badge series, Sergeant Wachowski did, that would highlight officers and their various motivations to work at the department or their journey into joining law enforcement. We also have tried targeting campaigns utilizing Facebook and other social media mediums where we're trying to get a broader reach in regards to recruitment, so expanding our candidate pool as well. And we have updated all our written material in print. We would love to have a marketing campaign. I have to give props to my team. They are definitely have updated all our videos and our instructional videos. So that's all just officers. That's not necessarily, that's their background. So I think it would be pretty amazing to see what we could do if we had a marketing consultant. I did want to talk a little bit about academy enrollment and recruitment numbers. There's definitely been a decrease in interest in policing. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody in this room. It's a nationwide issue, not a Grand Rapids Police Department issue. Michigan enrollment in police academies has been declining, I've been told, by MCOLs. So during our recruitment for January of 2022, we were authorized to hire 10 officers. There were 10 academies to recruit from in the state of Michigan for that time period where they would be eligible to be hired in January. There were 265 recruits that were enrolled total in those 10 academies, 72 of which were not committed, so they were free game. Everyone else was either sponsored or committed to other agencies. And we went out to those academies, with the exception, I think, 3, where we were not allowed due to COVID. And only 8 recruits expressed interest in working here. So what we have is we typically would recruit throughout the state of Michigan because it is really a candidate's market. They can stay where they grew up. So usually we would attract talent throughout the state. It's just very difficult to do that right now. Historically in Michigan, MCOL notes that the diverse makeup of recruits overall is about 15 to 20% participating in academies, which definitely makes it challenging for recruitment. Which is why we also have the police recruit process, which does tend to attract a little more diversity within those programs. And then I just wanted to share kind of a slide in regards to the last few years since 2018, just so you could see the decline. And I don't really need to explain these, and you guys can read, but there's definitely been a decline in those applying to the police department. Just to give you a heads up on that. So, segue into why do I share that? Because we definitely have to look at how can we be competitive in this market. So we definitely have to talk about hiring incentives to continue to attract candidates. What we do currently do for those that are police officers, we cover recognition of prior training experience costs for those that are coming from out of state. So for instance, we just hired a gentleman we're going to be hiring somebody from Texas, Missouri, and Indiana. So they have to, in order to get licensed in Michigan, they have to take this class, this RPTE class. So if they're hired, we cover those costs. Not, to my knowledge, any other department in this area is doing that. We also increased our lateral transfer pay rate. So for years, we have been bringing in those with experience at what we call our C-step. What we found is this year, Kent County and Kalamazoo, we're starting to match what we are offering. So we upped our game, and now we will have people come in at our pay scale with whatever experience they have. So instead of coming in our C-step, if someone has over 5 years of experience, they're coming in at our top pay. What we have looked at and what we do hope to propose are some take-home cruisers. Sign-on bonuses. I think we need to have compensation for bilingual skills. I've definitely been proposing that we go in that direction, and then pay compensation for military experience. So this picture I had a little proud because 4 of those people in this picture are my previous interns, Officer Andrew Smith, Officer Joey Esparza, intern, now officers, Calvin Crandall, and all of a sudden I'm going to forget the last one. I so apologize. This is Chief Payne's probably last recruit class that he got to pin, and it was a real good day. So, any questions?
Let me start off with one. Lieutenant, you said that most of the recruits normally choose to stay in their own local area?
Lately, yes.
Okay. Is there any plan in place as to what we need to do here in Grand Rapids to look at recruits within our own city limits, to put a plan in place to help them see the opportunities that are both of them on the Grand Rapids Police Department?
Yes, I think that's what we're trying to do with all our youth programs. So starts off even with Boys and Girls Club. They have a for the young kids, we do in the summertime passports to policing, and we just bring them out and show them the mounted unit and obviously age appropriate stuff for that age group, but starting younger and being involved in the youth programs, the baseball teams, and more engagement. I think I would love to see us be allowed into the schools more often. I think that really is where we're going to make a mark, is to be out and engaging with the youth at much younger age to get them interested in this as a profession. But those youth programs, for sure, I think is really important. We're definitely have been very active at the academies locally here, GRCC, Grand Valley, and Ferris. Their numbers also are down. This year, GRCC only had 29 in their academy, and they typically are over 40.
So you kind of answered my next question I was going to ask you, and that was, how often are the officers are in the school systems within here in Grand Rapids?
I think, we'd like to, I guess I want to let the Deputy Chief answer that.
Lieutenant O'Brien did talk about the
JROTC.
Yep, that we are involved in. KCTC has been very open to us coming there and doing programs. There was a program that was starting at one of the Grand Rapids schools. However, I was told from the school side that is on a standstill. And so we're hoping that they will start that conversation again with us. But other than that, we're not in the schools as often as what we would like.
Thank you, colleagues.
I wonder what do you think are the biggest barriers to getting officer recruits here?
I'm sorry?
What do you think are the biggest barriers to getting recruits?
I think there's, I think if we knew that, this wouldn't be an issue. It's tough. There's over 500, I'll be honest with you, there's over 580 law enforcement agencies in the state of Michigan, and you had 265 enrolled for January. Every department is hiring. So I think the answer is, how do we get more youth interested in this as a profession? And I think it starts young. It really does, to create that opportunity to engage with the community, and that's why we are trying to get more and more youth programs and more engagement. And but I wish I knew, what the barriers are. Just talking to GRPD, I think I'll be honest with you. I mean, the recruits in the academies definitely look at. Grand Rapids is unique. It's the second largest agency in the state of Michigan. It has a lot of publicity. This generation's real nervous about I'm going to be honest about the publicity that we receive. Mm-hmm. When they can go into the county and get no publicity, and maybe have less call volume. And so they do look at all those things. I mean, that's just with us interviewing the academy students. So, I think there are a lot of agencies with a lot of different, some people want a fast department, some people want a small department, but I think just keeping us competitive with benefits is really important, and pension is definitely important to keep us competitive, because this generation definitely is looking at that. We just met with some individuals, and I won't tell you what department, but they were looking to leave, and so they were definitely looking at what their department had to offer and what we did. And so they're talking about that more than maybe we did when I was hired, right? It's a different time place. So I think we do have to remain competitive in regards to that as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. I was wondering, for the officers who are in regular interaction with the youth of the community, I think it's safe to assume a number of them, that's their full-time job, right? So you have individuals who are officers who work at the Seidman Center and other community centers throughout the city, correct?
Right, we have 3 officers at the BGC, yep. It's Pauli, and then Seidman, and the Style Center. We have 1 officer at each of those clubs.
Okay. How often is the opportunity presented for officers who are, I guess, on the streets in squad cars, on the beat, for them to interact with perhaps the young people that they might see in the course of their day? Is there ever an opportunity for the young people to see them in a way that is perhaps outside of the traditional enforcement role that they play when they're in their squad cars and in community or in the neighborhoods?
Yeah, absolutely. There are. I got to share with you. So Austin DeKuyvers, Officer DeKuyvers, I'll tell you just a fun note, and yes, there are opportunities. He works in the East Service area, and he has established a relationship with the community in there. And he and one of the community members were talking, and she said, we need to do something. We need to do something outside of work. And so that relationship was developed, had been developing, and they had a kickball day and barbecued, and that was all officer-generated relationship with the community and them collaborating on having this fun event. So amazing things that our officers are doing and ideas they're coming up with. But in regards to those opportunities, even at the BGC, is we always, every recruit class, I get to meet with them and talk about the BGC and how take advantage of those opportunities when you can to stop by the clubs and meet the kids within the clubs and of course the community. So we try to make those opportunity, let them know as soon as they become police recruits to go and learn where your Boys and Girls Club is in your areas and to stop by. Sometimes the problem is the hours of the clubs. That becomes a little bit of an obstacle because they're closed during the summer at night. So the night shift officers can't stop by the clubs, but it's definitely highly encouraged.
With the community engagement unit as well, they organize several social events. I'm trying to think of all the events that officers have the ability to sign up to go work at. So neighborhood events, National Night Out, I mean, everything, where we have officers actually come in on overtime to do that. Because, I mean, the unfortunate truth is that they're very busy, the officers that are in the cars that are assigned to patrol every day. And in between the emergency calls, that's when they have the ability to more so get out of the car and engage. So we do a lot of events outside of those work hours that we actually have to ask for volunteers or for people to come in to work those events. Hopefully, as we get our staffing up, they will have more opportunity to do so. But we should keep a log and just put out all the positive stories of, we have so many officers that have bought basketball hoops for the kids and go to kids' birthday parties and families that invite them back at different times with their families. And we have a plethora of stories like that.
Okay. One other question is, as a department, would you say that we have began to engage in the strategy that is being implemented throughout the country with other departments in terms of really looking at a different type of profile when it comes to recruiting officers for a police department? I know that many, and this has been going on now for some years, where perhaps in the traditional applicant would be, if they have a college degree, maybe someone with a background in criminal justice. Or individuals who have served in the military. And I know that there are many high schoolers who, graduate from high school and they go, maybe do a year or so in community college, but eventually look to go into the academy. But as a department, how would you say that we're doing when it comes to, again, kind of, going the non-traditional manner? I know there's the idea of, again, trying to recruit individuals who have a background or a college degree or just an interest that is in many ways the antithesis of law enforcement. But the ideas that they bring to the table, perhaps better critical thinking skills, people skills, things of that nature, they aren't your typical, police recruit.
Yeah, I think you have to, evolve, and that's what I think I was hoping to get across today. We have to change, and we've definitely, we try to look at the way we're doing things, and is it the best way? Should we be doing something different? And I think that's good. That's how you evolve and look at different ways to recruit and make those changes. So I think that I can tell you that we have a lot of conversations with those that are interested in law enforcement, and that comes up. Wait, do I have to get a degree in criminal justice? I'm like, absolutely not. I think, what do you want to do after this job, right? And some people will have a goal, like, I want to own a business. I say, get a business degree. And so I think we encourage that now more than ever, and coupling that, whether it's psychology or sociology, we do try to share that you do not have to go and just get criminal justice classes under your belt. You should know what you're getting into, because I think sometimes we struggle with that with this police recruit process. The sponsored I'm talking about, historically, 30% are gone. Okay, so it's a lot of money when you think about, as a city, right, is losing that 30%. So, but I don't think you have to have a criminal justice degree to be successful in this career, but you should know by going on ride-alongs, doing some homework, what you're actually getting into. But yeah, I absolutely agree, you have to evolve.
In several of our interviews, the kids will ask us, what is the biggest thing? And we just say, make sure you understand what police work is or can be other than what you see on TV. Because we legitimately have kids that would like us to sponsor them through the academy, and they are like, we think it sounds cool to be a police officer. And then we try to vet through like personalities and what are you interested in, and we've lost kids at their first homicide scene. This is not what I signed up for. In our class right now, we're down, we just had lost 2 females because one decided she wanted to go. And nothing, we did exit interviews. Everything's positive about the department, positive about the way that we're doing things. They were all succeeding in training, but they just decided that what they were engaging with on the road was not for them, that they wanted to go in different lines of work, and it was just too hard with the daily grind to go into that. And there's a lot of parents right now that don't encourage their kids to want to stay on it either. So that's honestly what we are battling more with. But we're definitely looking to make sure we have kids that say, hey, I want to come and save the world. That's what I said 26 years ago. And we just say, okay, but understand that you're going to be going forward with emotions and then backward with emotions as well. So we just want to make sure that all the young people are very educated as far as what the reality of policing is on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you.
Kyle.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I got just a few questions, a little bit more technical. Just curious what's the proposed mechanism to pay for the added incentives, and just noticing that there's a lot of investments in recruitment right now, and curious about how that's shifting the unit's budget in terms of proportion to the largest departmental budget, but also in relation just to the other activities that the community engagement unit is engaged in.
Sure. I mean, I don't know, do you want to answer that? I think that, as far as like how are we going to cover these incentives, I think, there's definitely a proposal in the state of Michigan legislature where money is, and I think it's just passed the House. I'm not sure where, is it House, Ed? But where there'd be funds available for those recruiting efforts, and as well as other things, not just recruiting. So I think that we would definitely want to utilize some of those funds to supplement what we're doing, and then so yeah. But did you want to add anything?
No, I mean, the community engagement unit has a budget within their unit in order to be able to do things in the community, like ice cream socials, things like that. We try to get as much things donated as we can for some of the events, so it's not part of the police budget. However, there are several things that are in our police budget that are not necessarily to pay the police. It is for engagement activities and lots of other things, which I think isn't necessarily public knowledge that people understand. But in order, we have negotiations coming up for the city, but in order to attract, just like any private business, in order to attract people to come into a profession, I guess it would have to be up to the city on how important that is, to continue pay raises and such.
Any others? Lieutenant, thank you very much for the presentation. We definitely do appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening to me.
At this point, Commissioner Jones has requested a discussion on facilitations of a firearm lock and firearm safety awareness program. Commissioner, you want to take it?
Yep, thank you, Commissioner. Colleagues, I just wanted to share with you something I've been pondering, but also a work that I think could help ultimately in the effort to reduce the amount of illegal guns on the street. It's my understanding that a lot of the guns that are legal guns that are currently on the streets of Grand Rapids come from break-ins, either through automobile theft or through home theft. And so I was most intrigued, but also pleased to see the NAC and both Annette and Miriam and you all's efforts in succeeding and being selected for the Safe Pitch Night, looking to really advocate for safe neighborhoods and really get at the issue of community violence. And that coupled with also the Freedom Elevated Defense Solutions, which is an effort to teach gun safety. What I would like to put before you is the plan that I have in really wanting to perhaps develop a campaign in which would look to raise dollars, resources to be able to purchase gun safety kits and gun storage units and to give them away at no cost in the community. I've actually done what I would call some unscientific polling in talking to friends of mine who I know are licensed to carry. And I've asked a number of them, and they were very transparent in saying that, when they, if they're carrying and they decide not to carry their weapon into an establishment, they have a practice that they follow by putting it someplace in their car. And they were the first to admit that they kind of probably fit the profile of individuals whose guns would be stolen because it's left unattended to, obviously, in the car. And so the idea, again, has been stirring for some time now about what is it that we can do to perhaps prevent some of that. And so what I would like to suggest is to work with the department, but also within the community, to literally go out and, again, purchase a significant amount of safety kits and gun storage units and work with companies like Freedom Elevated Defense Solutions. There are two other companies in town who I know engage in this space as well, and they're owned by African Americans within the community. And I'd look to engage their services as well. But it could be, again, something that maybe doesn't make a significant difference, but it gets at the issue of trying to reduce the amount of illegal guns that are out there. And so whether it's providing these tools for someone who, again, leaves their weapon in their car or someone who leaves the weapon in their home, the goal is to be able to really position it to where the guns are, they're safe and they're not able to be, or if they are stolen, they're not functional, so to speak, because you can't get to them. And so I wanted to bring it first to our committee here, and I'm planning to have more substantive conversations, which I've already had initial conversations with both the mayor as well as city manager. I'd like to move forward with this. And I also spoke with Chief Payne, who connected me with Ms. Niemczek, who oversees a lot of the community work with the department. But part of the next steps would be to reach out and have conversations with Annette and Miriam and NAC, as well as others, to see how we could go about doing this. But I would envision, again, the opportunity to purchase quite a few, again, safety kits and gun storage units to give out to citizens or to residents of Grand Rapids, so that they could help in this effort. So I want to bring that to you all first.
So, Commissioner Jones, is this ongoing project once it gets going? Are you looking at it continuing on and
Yeah.
looking at what the budget would look like in reference to afford these gun lockdowns?
Yes.
Then the second thing I want to ask is that, is there anything that you can put in place that will allow gun stores to lock their equipment down as well?
That's interesting. If for many of you may already be aware of this, but there are no gun stores. I think there's not one in the city of Grand Rapids. The vast majority of guns that are sold in Grand Rapids may be found at pawn shops, but that's it. I know that, maybe you know, Commissioner O'Connor, but I know that the Ace Hardware on Michigan Street no longer sells guns. What about over on Fulton? No?
They've never had any on Fulton either.
Okay, so there literally aren't, and so when we talk about the gun stores, those are located in the first ring suburbs and beyond. I feel very strongly and have shared this with some of our legislators about efforts to your point, make it to where it is mandatory for gun shops to lock up their guns. It's much like you almost want to treat it like a jewelry store, to where jewelry stores are putting all of their stuff away in a safe. You can't get to it. Whereas gun store owners, it's like there, and there isn't significant security measures in place to prevent someone from breaking into the gun store and cleaning them out. And so that could perhaps be a simultaneous effort to try to get some legislation passed, because I think that it is, in many ways, I think it's irresponsible for gun store owners to operate, to not just operate in that regard, but to be allowed to operate in that regard. So,
If I may, I support this 100%. My wife is, do I need to shut this off? You want to just put it in?
Put your mic on.
Oh, right, like this? My wife is a Methodist, good Methodist woman, and she belongs to this group, the Methodist Connection, and we do a lot of interactive stuff, you know. And we have a dinner club or whatever that comes over, mixed, and mostly people of our age. And at one of these discussions, the idea of guns came up, and we were almost blown away that every one of our black friends said they had a gun. Like, wow, you just don't think about that. And like one of these women is barely big enough to pick up a gun, but she's got one in her house, you know, and it's a scary proposition to begin with, but I think what you're doing here is terrific. It's a great idea. Yeah, I support it 100%.
thank you.
Thanks going, Joe.
All right, at this point in time, I just want to take a moment and recognize the NAACP president, Mr. Clee Jackson, and his team that is sitting on the audience. They were very instrumental in supporting the surveillance policy revisions. So we just want to say thank you, Mr. Jackson, for being a part of that. It is approximately 3:57, and Public Safety Committee is adjourned.
Thank you.